Acacia, aka the Movement Mentor. Welcome to the Vantage Point Podcast. Thanks for coming on. First of all, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well, thank you. I feel very optimistic about this podcast, and I think we've been speaking for a while now, and it's great that we've actually put this time together to make this happen.
Yeah, 100%. Tell me about your lighting setup right now.
Okay, so I've got a dozen candles lit up at the moment because I follow this strict rule, or I try to at least, of no blue light after sunset. So that's why I've got like this really warm glow ambience setting for my lighting.
Awesome. Yeah, you very much focus, especially because obviously we've been following each other on social media for a while, and I do like the way you focus on this kind of primal movement and this primal kind of way of living. Tell me about that. What got you into that?
Okay, I guess this is like my origin story. Okay, so where can we go? Well, I've always been very in tune with nature anyway. So where I'm from Bermuda. It's very difficult not to be a part or feel like you are a separate entity from your environment. And I have been led to do a course, which was like a marine biology course. So further just following my natural instincts, but it hit me like truly a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I think it was 5 years ago, actually. I went foraging with a friend for some semelita, like a psilocybin mushroom, and that's like not too far away from where I currently am. And I had this trip and this experience where I just felt like, what am I doing with my life? I'm kind of on this autopilot because of what I've kind of been taught I have to do, where it's actually not in line with my own beliefs. It's not in line with the life that I want to create, or the life that I want to be, or the person that I want to be. So ever since then, I've kind of been pursuing like, what is that for me? Like, what is my truth? What would make me feel more in line with nature? Because that's something that I'm naturally drawn to. And I see a lot of there's like a duality in life at the moment where, we're progressing, we have, we're
Do you think
living
that's
in
a
a
superficial
utopia.
progression? Do you think it's very superficial that we've lost a bit of what made our society, our culture, like so great in the first place, and we've lost a lot of that to technology and to this kind of superficial desire to sort of, get progress in our jobs and get really good careers, technologically advance? And you think, maybe we lost a bit of what made us human in the first place, being
Yes.
outside in nature, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
100% with that statement. I do. I like, it's just like I would say maybe it was almost like a quarter life crisis where I was just like, what am I doing? Like, what is everyone else doing at their
Yeah.
time? Like, does this really matter as much as
As much as we're told it matters.
yes. And then slowly, surely, I've had multiple health issues. I've kind of healed myself from that just by getting back to the basics. And then I wanted to understand, so a fish swims, a dog, they kind of trot. What do humans do? Like, what is our main mode of movement? Because I had so much joint pain, and it was like, what, like, I'm not supposed to be like 28 now. I'm not supposed to be in pain. I'm supposed to be thriving. And that's kind of what led me there.
Oh, fair enough. Why do you think it's important for us to move?
Well, okay, so our bodies, our physical self, we use our physical bodies to interact with the world. So there's multiple layers to it. But essentially, if we can't move efficiently, how are we supposed to interact with the world efficiently? And movement, because we are visual creatures, we signal to our peers like our physical state of health, how we carry ourselves, but also like if the spine isn't aligned in the right way, we aren't even able to communicate with our bodies in the right way.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my dog.
That's all right. Yeah, that's interesting you say that. I do so I do hit classes for big groups of people, and well, not so big at the moment. Quiet time at the gym. But yeah, I do hit classes for groups of people, and a lot of the time before we start, I get them to do an exercise called a chest opener. So it's like a stretch where you just open your chest up and stretch your chest out as much as you can, and just repeat a few times. And I do that because it makes them go into the workout with that kind of open, positive body language. And if people are spent all day hunched over their computers, and they walk out of work and they're still hunched over, their positioning isn't good, they're looking down all the time, that affects your
what does that do
mental,
to your psyche,
to your
like
brain?
your
Yeah,
ego?
yeah, 100%.
Like it's incredible, especially, well, I'm picking up on when you said you do this chest opening stretch, right? Because we're so hunched over, like, well, I say we, obviously, maybe not us, but most of the population, we're hunched over like this. We have an energetic center in our chest called the heart chakra. And I don't know if it's, what the cause of this is, but from your previous statement about how we kind of, we're in this world where we're superficially advancing, but in many ways we're not feeling that fulfillment, or we're not feeling that connectiveness, because our heart chakras is actually closing in on ourselves too. But like you said as well, it does affect your psyche, like how you hold yourself in 3D space.
Tell me more about chakras. That's one thing I've never really understood. Could you sort of sum it up for me and for maybe other people who are listening who don't understand what that is?
Of course, I'm not an expert on this, but it kind of made more sense to me after I started working on my posture, because I feel more balanced and integrated as a being. So there are actually multiple chakras, but I think generally we refer to 7 of them. So we have the first one, which is our root, which is our hands and our feet. It's what we ground ourselves into the ground, into the earth with. That is associated with red, it's associated with survival. And then we have our sacrum, which is just, I guess, where our sex is, or where your pelvis is, and that's associated with, like, well, actually, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what it's associated with. I bet it's something to do with fertility. But as we go up our spine, we have different chakras, different energetic centers. So for example, we have our heart chakra, which is what I mentioned before. You could even feel like when you feel that sense of love or connectiveness, you feel it in this region of your body. You have your throat chakra, which is, the way that we interact with the world on a vibrational level. Well, that's another story, because everything is vibration and frequency. And then we have our third eye chakra, which is like your intuition or your foresight. And then you have your crown chakra. And according to Eastern practices, we're supposed to master each of these chakras to transcend into the next realm, into the spiritual realm. So, for example, if I can use this analogy, Obi-Wan Kenobi, or even Qui-Gon, they figured out how to access their crown chakra so they can exist forever as spirit. Yeah.
Awesome. That's an interesting analogy for sure. Definitely helps simplify it for those of us like me who are too stupid to understand what chakras are.
Well, me too, right? I was like, when I watched that film, I was like, oh my God, that's what's going on here.
That's quite interesting. I tell you what, the thing that interests me a lot about what you're posting recently on your Instagram has been when you analyze the way people move. So I get what you're saying there. Movement and the ability to move allows you to fully access or develop your chakras.
Well, it's all related, right? Because all of these systems exist in one body. So if you master your movement, you're going to see that other levels of your life are just going to fall into place too. But essentially, movement quality is life quality. And especially now that I'm seeing so much of the aging population, go through hip replacements, or you see them on canes, and it's like, well, we could prevent that if we ingrain the right movement patterns, so your body can do that automatically.
It makes me wonder if say my grandparents had known the information that you're putting now out there on social media, if they'd known that information that we can so easily get at the tip of our fingers now, what kind of life quality they would have had and how long they would be able to live to now,
Yes,
and it makes me wonder how long we could live to, knowing the things that we do know now.
Yes, and like your body, like if you fix your movement metabolically, your body is going to be operating better because your digestive and your breathing is better, your nervous system is better. But also, like when it comes to analyzing bodies, we have to remember that we weren't like, it depends on what your beliefs are, evolution or design, but mine is design. We weren't designed to operate in this realm that we're currently operating in, sitting down. We were meant to move, and there would have been a time where our movement quality would have been the matter of life and death. Like if you can outrun or agile, like I guess
if you had the agility to avoid a
lion.
predator.
Yes, 100%.
So what are the most common the most common mobility issues you see with your clients?
Ooh, okay. So I see a lot of it's called hypolordosis and kyphosis. So that's essentially when your spine, you've got the rounding in your shoulders, but you also have like a little bit of an arch in your lower back. Yes, too much of that.
Right.
Because obviously our spine is naturally curved anyway. Another thing is that's when they're standing. When they're actually moving through 3D space, you'll see like knee valgus and knee varus. You'll see something called a hip hike. And that hip hike, every time I think about it, because that's the exact joint pain that I've had. It's like, it's to do how you strike the ground. So the most effective way to strike the ground if you want to move is to strike the ground with the toe pad, the balls of your foot. But often, because of the way that shoes are designed, we are striking the ground with the heels of our foot. And you can even hear like that, all of that shock is going right through. It's not being dissipated through the body effectively. It's just being jarred into your hip joints. And the way that we compensate for that is to hike our hip up.
Yeah.
But
that's common in runners, isn't it? Heel strike pain.
Yes, it's crazy because I mean, I think now that I've looked into it, all the information, it's all there, but maybe it's not there for all just at this moment, because
it's there if you look for it. So what would you say to someone like who had the same issue that you had, say a hip issue now, and they're young? What would you say to people who lack mobility in their hips, or as you say, maybe leads with their heel when they run, and they're coming up with all these kind of stiffness from an early age? What would you say to people now what could they do right now to improve their range of motion and that overall mobility?
Well, it first starts with awareness, right? Like just sinking into your body a little bit, seeing where you are in 3D space. But the first place that I always start people with is myofascial release, because of
that's like the arch of your feet, right?
Oh no. So myofascial release is the process of rehydrating our muscles, our myofascial system. Right. And this is because sometimes if they are, lacking the mobility, or if they're feeling stiff in our bodies, most likely it's because we have dehydrated pockets in our bodies. So if you're rounding over, your pecs will be one that's really dehydrated. Or if you're sitting down for 9 hours a day, your hip flexor area will be one that's really dehydrated. And you want to rehydrate those tissues so you can regain the full range of motion without that kind of stiff, like sudden, I guess, what's that word I'm looking for? Yeah, just stiffness, I guess.
Yeah. Putting your body in positions it's not used to because you spend so long sitting down. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So what does the word health, just the word health, mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like that one. Um, Health.
Just overall health. If you could
It's
sum it
more of
up.
a feeling, to be honest. It's like I wake up in the morning, I feel energized, I feel like confident in myself, I feel confident in my capabilities. It's like an energy, I just feel charged. I feel like a battery or like a lightning bolt almost. And to maintain that level, I have to do the healthy things. So it's kind of cyclical, but
It's
yeah,
how
I
you
think that's what it
recharge.
means to me. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I feel supercharged.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I
What
feel
about
when I go,
you?
yeah, when I go to the gym, I feel like that, but not even when I'm just in the gym, but the fact that I go to the gym and work on myself gives me this kind of deep level of confidence that I can approach any challenge because I train hard in this hour of my
Mm,
day. So for the other 23 hours of my day, I have it and more energy about me than other people who don't train. I feel more powerful than them
mm,
mentally and physically. And that, again, just posture. When you train your muscles, you have probably fewer of those pockets that you were talking about
mm,
where you have stiffness and dehydration because you're using everything. So you just get more out of life.
mm.
Uh,
I think another good definition of health is the lack of suffering or the unnecessary suffering,
yeah.
Like you don't feel any restraints. It's almost like feeling like it's summer every single day,
Yeah.
like that kind of vibe.
Do you think people nowadays, you were saying before about we were letting go of maybe some things we knew about ourselves as a civilization in favor of technology and in favor of these kind of corporate systems where you're just told, work as hard as you can to work up the ladder and maybe one day you'll be able to afford a Lamborghini. It's like, and we've let go of a lot of our past where it wasn't all about that. It was about this kind of hunter-gatherer mentality, and you'd be happy just catching your food for the day.
Mm.
Do you think that people are turning to pharmaceuticals more to deal with mental health issues rather than embracing like the things that make us human, like eating well, exercising? Do you think that's happening?
I do think that's happening. And I speak from experience. Like you go to the doctor, right? Firstly, doctors aren't doctors in health, they're doctors in medicine. So that just tells you the kind of mindset they would approach your ailments with.
A very
Um,
logical but very narrow-minded maybe view sometimes. Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I think your question was, do we think that we're relying a little bit more? We're relying on quick fixes essentially instead of doing the hard. I mean,
Yeah.
initially it's hard, but if it's a lifestyle, it feels less hard. Um, we are taking the easier option so we can compensate for the actual issue. So we're addressing the symptoms and not the system, not the lifestyle, not the what's going on in your body. And it's getting worse, but I think that there is a little bit of a shift. Like I feel like there's like this grand awakening of people pursuing health because they know how fragile we are actually.
Yeah, I think a lot of emphasis is put on the superficial. You'll get a six pack if you train, but there's not a lot of
Mm,
emphasis on you'll significantly increase your mental health
yes.
capability and just your positive outlook through training. And
Mm,
when people come to me and they say they have depression or anxiety, any of these like very, very common mental health issues, and the first thing they think to do is go to a doctor and see what they can be prescribed. I just think, first of all, do you drink enough? Do you eat enough? Do you sleep enough? Do you train enough? Do you do these basic things? And if you don't cover all of those four bases, then why are you going to get something prescribed as like a quick fix, like a plaster to cover the wound?
Yes, that is
It's
like,
just going to open up.
It's so true. It's so true. Because that used to be me. I'd be like, oh, I feel so rubbish. And then my partner would be like, so what have you eaten today? And it's like, oh, all right, maybe I had a McDonald's. Maybe that was my only meal. I didn't exercise that day. And it's like, whoa, obviously I'm feeling rubbish. No wonder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think, I've seen you post before as well about martial arts. Do you think we should all take up some form of martial arts? And if so, why? What does martial arts teach us?
Self-preservation. I mean, so if we go back to the ego, which is based in our root chakra, it's all about survival. And we open our root chakra. Our root chakra becomes balanced if we feel capable in our abilities to survive. So one of those things is, well, because martial arts exist, right? Would I rather be the person who turns up to a fight not knowing martial arts, or would I rather know the martial arts because my opponent, whoever that may be, might know martial arts? So I think because it exists, it's always wise to get clued up on the things that might be used against you. Because why would you want to be vulnerable? That it's just like stressful for your psychology, really. But also I think because through my own martial arts journey, I started off and I was like, yeah, I want to be badass, I want to punch things, I'm going to be like really super confident. But it also teaches you like some level of respect for the fragility of humans and like the restraints. So I like how it's like the yin and the yang all together in one art.
I've heard a lot of people say you can't go into a martial arts gym with an ego, or it's going to get checked really quick.
Yeah, multiple times actually. Like you come in one day thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna land this submission, or you're going through like your combinations in your head and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna land that one, or that person got me that week, so I'm gonna give it back to them. But yeah, you can't really do that because especially if you're training consistently at one gym, those are your teammates, right? Like at the end of the day, that's your tribe. If anything happens, these are going to be the people that you want to be able to rely on to help you in that kind of scenario. But they are also helping you. So you can't really go, guns a-blazing, because what's the point? Like,
yeah, you have to show restraint and show almost mercy in a way when you're training with someone, right?
Yes. And that's what I kind of look out for actually when I do watch fighting these days, because I think even with fighting, it's kind of been turned into an entertainment. We've always admired gladiators, going all out for survival. But at the moment, now I'm looking at skill, because it's just anyone can fight if they felt that their life depended on it. But it takes true skill to be able to like slip a punch and then throw one back, but not be too brutal. But maybe that's because I'm a woman. I don't really like all the gore, but I like the skill.
What do you think of the differences between men and women when it comes to training? It's a bit of a controversial topic maybe now. I don't think it really is, but I've heard you talk about it before. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, typically, it's difficult because I feel like there's so many movements out there. So I feel like as soon as I say something, there's going to be like one side of the argument coming at me. But for me, through my own experience, and I don't take any hormonal contraception. So a lot of women today, they are taking hormonal contraception, which alters their perception of their reality because it's a hormone, obviously.
Yeah.
But because I'm more of an emotional being, I have to really feel up for it to work out. Like if my body is not feeling 100%, or if I'm feeling lacking in the energy, depending on where I am on my hormonal cycle, then I will just ease off because my body is already telling me not to do that. So it just put my body in a hyper state of stress. And that's like through the myofascial release, through the movement correction, I'm trying to reduce the stress in my body, not increase it unnecessarily.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. But man, I mean, you guys seem to be at it every day. And I'm like, bloody hell, like, what? I wish I could, but I still do. Like, so I walk or I go for a run or I do anything to move my body. It just wouldn't be intense training.
Okay, yeah. I think it's important to listen to your body. And then if that's what you feel comfortable doing, then do that. Like there's no like shame in that either way. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of women who are absolute beasts in the gym and can lift a lot more than me. So it's totally down to just you as a person. And
it depends what you're training for as well, right?
Yeah, true.
Like,
true.
I'm training for life, not for to, you know,
to
meet
compete.
a 1 rep max. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I trained in powerlifting a couple of years back, and then I realized kind of what am I doing trying to just get the highest weight I can? Is it just an ego thing? I'm not going to compete in this. My long-term goal is just long-term health. And I was losing the ability to run long distances, which I just took for granted before. And it was that was a bit of a wake-up call for me. And yeah, when it comes down to it, I think it's important to train because you enjoy the thing you're doing. A lot of people get into training, especially this time of year, and they start thinking, right, I've got to do this, this, and this, work out three times a day, wake up at 5:30 in the morning. And it's like, if you don't enjoy doing that, you're not going to stick at doing that. What are your thoughts on 100%. that? Do you agree?
Well, this is why I focus on the movements. So this is why I focus on, you know, standing, because we stand often. This is why I focus on walking, because we walk often. So I feel from my experience and with working with my clients, it's more beneficial to work on the things that fit their lifestyle and that will give them the most return because they use it on a daily basis. So I 100% agree. If you aren't doing something that you enjoy or something that you find is functional for your lifestyle, then, you know, it's not, the math isn't going to add up. It's going to be something that you are constantly going to have a battle with because it's not enjoyable, not useful to you. So if it's not those two things, then why are you doing it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it's not those two things, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Train because it benefits you, train because you like training. And then,
yes.
I think me and you share the same end goal, just get as much out of life as possible. And if that's through training, then put time into training. But if that's through something else altogether, then invest your time in that.
It's really interesting when I meet other people who have other, you know, passions and interests, because I'm like, if you're not training, like, what are you doing with your time? You know?
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. If you've never tried it, try it. You might really like it. Anyway, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. So thanks so much for coming on. Obviously, this is one of my very first episodes. So yeah, it means a lot to me coming on this. And it's great to finally meet you. Somewhat face to face.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And I see that your podcast is going to take off and it's going to be really successful. So all the best with your journey and getting that better vantage point.